It was Christmas Eve, and the office tower stood empty and silent. Richard Foster sat alone in his corner office on the 42nd floor. At 62 years old, he had built an empire. His investment firm managed billions. His name appeared in financial magazines. People called him successful. But tonight, success felt hollow. His desk phone hadn't rung all day. His cell phone showed no messages. His ex-wife was spending Christmas with their grown son in California. They hadn't invited him. He couldn't remember the last time they had. Richard stood at the window watching the city lights twinkle below. Families were gathering. Children were laughing. Somewhere down there, people were loved. He turned back to his desk and noticed something unusual. A cream-colored envelope lay on his leather chair. He picked it up slowly. His name was written in careful, looping handwriting. 3 different inks, 3 different styles. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Dear Mr. Foster," it began. "We are the Martin triplets. We are 9 years old. Our mama cleans your office every night. She talks about you sometimes. She says you work very hard and stay very late. She says you are always alone. We wanted to write to you because nobody should be alone at Christmas. We made you cookies, but Mama said we cannot leave food at your office, so we are leaving you this letter instead. We hope you have someone to spend Christmas with. If you do not, you can spend it with us. Our address is below. Mama does not know we are writing this. Please do not tell her. We will get in trouble, but we think you might need a friend. Merry Christmas. Love, Emma, Grace, and Sophie Martin." Richard read the letter 3 times. His hands trembled slightly as he held it. He thought about the cleaning woman. Maria. Yes, that was her name. She always smiled at him when she came through in the evenings. He barely looked up from his work. He never asked about her life. Never asked if she had children. Never asked anything at all. These 3 little girls had seen something in him that he could barely see in himself. They had seen his loneliness. Richard looked at the address. It was in a neighborhood he knew. Not a wealthy area. The kind of place where people worked 2 jobs and still struggled to pay rent. The kind of place he had grown up in 50 years ago. Before ambition had hardened him into someone he barely recognized, he made a decision. 20 minutes later, Richard stood outside a modest apartment building. He carried 2 shopping bags. He had stopped at the only store still open, buying what he could find. A honey-baked ham, fresh rolls, apple cider, a chocolate cake, and 3 small gifts wrapped in gold paper. He climbed the stairs to apartment 3B and knocked softly. The door opened a crack. 3 identical faces peered out at him. 3 pairs of brown eyes went wide with shock. "Mr. Foster?" one of them whispered. "Emma? Grace? Sophie?" Richard said gently. "I received your letter." The girls stood frozen. Then one of them turned and called out, "Mama, Mama, come quick." Maria appeared in the doorway. She wore a simple dress and an apron dusted with flour. When she saw Richard, the color drained from her face. "Mr. Foster? Is something wrong? Did I forget something at the office?" "No, Maria," Richard said quietly. "Your daughters wrote me a letter. They invited me for Christmas. I hope I am not intruding." Maria's hand flew to her mouth. She looked down at the triplets, who suddenly found the floor very interesting. "Girls," she said in a strained voice, "what did you do?" "We just thought," Emma began. "He is always alone, Mama," Grace added. "Nobody should be alone at Christmas," Sophie finished. Maria looked mortified. "Mr. Foster, I'm so sorry. They should not have bothered you. Please forgive them. They are children. They do not understand." "Understand what?" Richard asked. "That people like you do not spend Christmas with people like us." The words hung in the cold hallway. Richard felt something crack open inside his chest. When had he become the kind of man people said that about? When had he built walls so high that kindness could not reach him? "May I come in?" he asked softly. "Please." "I brought dinner." Maria hesitated. Then she stepped aside. The apartment was small but immaculate. A modest Christmas tree stood in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments. The furniture was old but cared for. Everything spoke of dignity and love, even in the face of financial struggle. The triplets helped set the table. They moved with practiced efficiency, clearly used to helping their mother. Richard watched them carefully place mismatched plates and folded napkins. No one complained. No one argued. They simply worked together. Over dinner, Richard learned their story. Maria's husband had died 3 years ago. Heart attack. No warning. He had been a construction worker with no life insurance. Maria had taken the night cleaning job because it let her be home when the girls left for school and return before they went to bed. A neighbor watched them in the evening hours. The triplets were in 4th grade. Emma loved mathematics. Grace wanted to be a veterinarian. Sophie wrote poetry. They were bright, curious kind. Everything Richard's own son had been before Richard had pushed him away with his obsession with work and success. "Why did you really come?" Maria asked quietly after the girls had cleared the dishes. Richard was silent for a long moment. "Because I have spent 20 years building a fortune," he finally said. "And tonight I realized I have nothing. Your daughters saw that. They saw what I had become, and they offered me something I thought I had lost forever." "What is that?" Maria asked. "The chance to be human again." The girls brought out their handmade ornaments to show him. Richard listened to their excited chatter. He heard himself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in years. When Sophie climbed into his lap to show him her poetry journal, he felt tears prick his eyes. This was what he had sacrificed. This warmth, this connection, this simple, profound joy of being with people who cared. Before he left that night, Richard made a promise. He would help Maria, not with charity but with opportunity. His firm needed someone to manage the office administration. The job paid well, had normal hours, and included health insurance. Would she consider it? Maria wept. The triplets hugged him tightly, and Richard held them close. 3 small girls who had saved him with nothing more than a letter and an invitation. On Christmas morning, Richard woke up in his empty penthouse. But for the first time in years, he did not feel alone. He called his son. They talked for 2 hours. There was pain there and anger, but also hope. Maybe, his son said carefully, they could try again. Richard returned to Maria's apartment that afternoon. He brought more food, more gifts, and something else. 3 college savings accounts, 1 for each girl. They would never have to worry about paying for their education. They could become whatever they wanted to be. "Why are you doing this?" Maria asked through her tears. Richard smiled. "Because 3 little girls taught me something I had forgotten. That the measure of a man is not what he accumulates, but what he gives. That success without connection is just loneliness with better furniture. That it is never too late to change, to be better, to be kind." He looked at Emma, Grace, and Sophie, who were staring at him with shining eyes. "Thank you," he said simply. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for saving me." Years later, Richard would say that Christmas Eve was the night his real life began. The night 3 9-year-old girls looked at a lonely old man and decided he deserved kindness. The night a simple letter changed everything. Because sometimes the greatest gifts come in the smallest packages. Sometimes wisdom comes from the mouths of children. And sometimes being saved requires nothing more than someone brave enough to reach out their hand. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more stories that remind us what truly matters in life. And leave a comment below telling us about a time when a small act of kindness changed everything for you. Your story might inspire someone else who needs hope today.